We will get started. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, The Deaf Nonprofit Crisis. My name is Sasha Ponappa and I am the Executive Director of the Deaf Organizations Fund, DOF. I am a brown woman with shoulder-length brown hair and I'm wearing a blue top. Behind me I have different on camera. So the purpose of this webinar since January, the nonprofit sector has been affected by so many different executive orders and other federal actions. A lot of us on the call today are members of the deaf disabled communities and affiliated with nonprofit organizations, and are feeling a lot of uncertainty and fear. Today, you're going to hear from leaders from 3 different deaf nonprofits as they share their experience in navigating the space. I am honored to introduce to you Darian, Aracelia, and Zachary. I would ask the panelists to introduce themselves, your title, your organization, and a little bit about what it is that your organization does. I'll start with Darian.
Hello, this is Darian speaking. Hello, everyone. Today, I am thrilled to be a part of this experience today. My name is Darian Gambrell. This is my name sign on my chest. I am a Black woman, and I have a Black afro and earrings, some Black cat-eye eyeglasses, and a blue V-neck shirt, and my background is a light blue. I work at an organization called Deaf Inc., which is in Massachusetts. And this is an agency that is really wonderful. We've been around since 1977, and we are one of really the only statewide organization in Massachusetts that is deaf-led and deaf-run. So we are really proud of that. And we're really proud of our heritage that we've had since 1977. Our agency also offers many services where the focus is on different things, 3 areas mainly, which is for the deaf blind program that we have, which we provide deaf blind services for our deaf blind consumers. We have ARES, ARES, which is advocacy, resources, and education services. And we're more than just independent. We provide housing assistance and education classes and a variety of things. We work with immigrants, and really a lot of things are involved in that ARIS program. And then we also have the ASL program where we provide community ASL program for hearing and deaf families, students. Again, we serve a variety of people. So that's us in a nutshell for Deaf Inc. So I look forward to talking more about this later.
Wonderful. This is Sasha. Your turn, Aracelia. She says, hi, this is Aracelia Aguilar. I'm here in California. My pronouns are she, her. Visual description is I am wearing a maroon long sleeve shirt. I have maroon leaf earrings on, and my hair is dark brown and it's pulled back. I have dark red lipstick on, and I have a tan background and with a little bit of the corner showing of a bookshelf of mine. I work for DeafHope. I am one of 4 empowerment directors. And what DeafHope does is we focus on ending violence within our deaf communities. Domestic violence, spousal violence, social services for many marginalized identities. We provide a variety of services having to do with court, hospital, mentorship, education, education about healthy relationships, how to prevent domestic violence. We do restorative justice work within our communities, and that is DeafHope, and I'm thrilled to be here and share our experience of what is going on in our current climate. This is Sasha. And Zach, go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here today. I am the executive director for an organization in Rochester, New York called Rochester Deaf Kitchen. I'm a white man with a brown beard, brown hair, blue eyes, and a blue background with a gray sweater. Our organization recognizes a huge problem with hunger and food insecurity within the deaf community. It's a really large issue we're facing. We've identified globally with the hearing population is facing high rates of food insecurity at 10.2%. And that's pretty extreme. But for the deaf community, within our community, we notice that deaf people are facing a 42%, which is far too high. We're trying to address that problem right now. And we start with a program called Deaf Community Food Pantry. And that program is open twice a week, where we distribute free food to the deaf community, accessing both nutritious food in the language that is 5,000 to 7,000 pounds of food a week we distribute. This August will be our direct service program anniversary of 2 years this coming August. So we're thrilled to be celebrating that. So thank you so much for having me here today.
This is Sasha signing. Thank you for sharing about your organizations. And obviously, this is a hot topic right now with the current administration, the federal actions, the executive orders that are happening. That's impacting a lot of nonprofit organizations. And how has it been? How have these executive orders impacted your organizations? Aracelia is here, and she says, we've actually received cuts already from federal cuts. 75% of our funds are from federal funds. So we recognize that some of this funding is being cut, and there isn't a plan about when that will return. So there's been a huge impact on us currently. So this is where we've come together and said, okay, what other strategies are out there that we can use? You know, sometimes you've been doing things one way and you're just used to that. So it's time to regroup and discuss as a collective team. We operate through collective leadership. We have 3 empowerment directors instead of executive directors. So we've talked amongst each other about what's next with us letting go of this federal funding. A lot of it comes from a cultural perspective. It's easy to get into a fear-based mindset and be concerned about what it is that you can't control, but we are entrenched in our cultural values, and we believe that this shift can be for the better, and it does have an impact for us in the immediate future. Sasha says, wow, you lost funding. Ooh, Darian, do you want to add to that on your organization?
Yes, absolutely. This is Darian speaking here. So we haven't really felt the impact yet, but the federal government won't give any money right now. So we do have some of those contracts with different agencies that get funding from the government, but it has only impacted us maybe just a little bit. Not the money itself, that maybe the money that hasn't arrived, or we still have the programs there, but we know that later, the function might change a little bit. But what really is impacting us now is the fear, that we get from the federal level about our immigrants. So we serve a lot of immigrants right now, deaf and hard of hearing, deaf blind. So of course, there's a lot of fear from our consumers, from our staff, from our agency that we really, what are we going to structure? What is that going to look like? How do we protect them in the future? So, we can't 100% protect everyone, but definitely we need to have, if ICE is coming, we need to know that process and, in our regional offices to make sure that by law that we're following whatever is need to be done and make sure that there's an interpreter there that's able to show up. So it's just about having all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed when it comes to that. So, we don't want something to happen where it just destabilizes everything in the moment's time. So it's really a learning process for us. And we have a board and we have our lawyers there, and we're trying to work with them to make sure everything is set across the board and post what we need to. But that is the way that we have been impacted, but nothing over that right now, thank goodness. So we just want to continue to have the conversations with people that what we can manage, that we can work together. It'll just be an ongoing relationship, and that hopefully we won't have to stop anything for long. So, but right now we're not experiencing that direct impact.
This is Sasha. You have to be more resilient, huh? And you have to be able to code switch and switch at the drop of a dime.
Absolutely.
Zach, do you want to add anything?
Absolutely. Yeah. Our organization, as of right now, does not receive any federal funding. However, we have been impacted. We rely on a program for free food under the USDA, the US Department of Agriculture. Now, that program is fantastic. It's been amazing. They've tried, the federal government supports both farmers and supports folks who need food. So they will buy the food from the farmers, collect that, process it, and distribute it to food banks. That program has been, we have used that program to distribute the 5,000 to 7,000 pounds of food we do a week. 35 to 40% of that food comes from that program from the USDA. That has since been cut, which hurts. It hurt us. Now, the food that we were getting and distributing is typically expensive. Meat, eggs, all of the things that are typically pretty pricey. Now, we've had to find other things, other funding opportunities, we've needed to purchase and use for now, but we have tried to manage as best we can. For instance, the amount of food that we're distributing, but it has definitely had an impact.
Yes, this is Darian here. I just wanted to add one thing here before the election happened. We knew that there were a lot of federal grants that were going to be rolled back. Some of the grants that we've had that would soon, be not be going forward. And we knew that this was perfect to apply for some of those. So when that happened, it was like really everything shifted there, and we had to look at that. We really couldn't be prepared for everything. So it was really sad that that happened. So that is one of the impacts that we face too with some of those grants being cut.
This is Aracelia. We knew when the current administration went into effect that any possibility for the grants that we were hoping for were likely going to be cut. We took a look at our values and we decided that we were going to double down on our values. We weren't going to omit that like a lot of other agencies and organizations have. We made the decision that these are our values and this is what it is that drives our work. And our audience is of marginalized identities. So we recognize that our values might not align with the current administration and that we were prepared for that and for that ongoing conversation of, okay, in order to get this funding, how much do we have to give of ourselves to fit with the current administration's values when these don't fit our values? So this is Sasha. I'm sure that that's not been easy to navigate those kind of decisions. Other organizational leaders have been forced to make the same decision and to not um, fall back or reduce what it is that they're saying is their mission and their values. So if you see your how do you see your funding strategies going forward with funding sources changing and the challenges? What are your plans for the future? I will start with Zach first.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Our organization is new and it's small compared to, larger organizations. We are we were established in 2022 and started actually operating since then. Since then, we are 100% private funded, 100%. We've had sponsors from local foundations, support from them, individual donors, corporate donations, philanthropic donations from corporations. And what has changed is our pursuit of federal funding. That was our goal. And we've since the election made the decision to re-strategize and shift and pivot to statewide funding, state sources, state government, statewide or national foundations, for instance. Now, we had to figure out and establish criteria for who and what type of funders we wanted that did in fact align with our values. Not just anyone. Our work is too critical, our work is too important. So we've looked for funders and sources of funding that do understand food insecurity is a significant concern. It's not minimal, it is critical. And also understand that in order to address the large systemic issues like food insecurity, you need unrestricted funding. You need support, not just in small numbers. You need unrestricted funding in order to do that work. And myself, I've been surprised by some limited funding that, we've just got costs of that need to be covered and want funders who see the larger picture and understand how to do that. And our goal is to employ staff and encourage other places to replicate our model. And that is important to us. So our current strategy in terms of finding funders and program funders, I believe that the wait will be worth it.
This is Sasha. So you're looking for the right funders going forward and lessening your dependency on federal funding. And you're looking for funders who align with your values in addressing food insecurity and replicating the model that you've established in Rochester to now be established in other areas. Darian, what do you plan on doing going forward?
Yes, this is Darren here. With most of the funding that we had, it's with state contracting and private funding as well. And we are basically asking for more funding, more everything, so that we have a lot more flexibility there and how to give with those grants. Maybe we have those limits or those specific programs. So we're having a lot of team discussions to look at more of the health disparity, and there's a lot of funding there. So we're already doing some of that work, but we want to put more into it. We want to do more collaboration work with the community, more partnerships. And there's about 10 or 15 grants that we've seen, and we're asking to continue to partner with other people. We're not just looking to do this alone. Like some of those agencies can't handle it alone. So we're looking for some collaboration among some other organizations. And we have wrote some grants that we're not sure about, and maybe if their values are the same. So it seems a little challenging there. So we're just looking at how to do this because we're already have the struggles with being a deaf organization, with having the disability sphere already. We're having a Black director. Like there's a lot of different things. Being a woman, so there's many different services out there, many people, different races there. So we're just looking like how can we identify and how can we write those grants if we can't say anything under that DEI realm? Like what are we supposed to do here? So I will still say under represented or marginalized communities, so I can use those type of words, but this is what we've been doing so far, and I haven't got the word to do anything different, but it's just a lot of adjusting, a lot of mind shift there. After Black Lives Matter movement, it was just like there's too much to learn. There was a lot to learn about social justice, about racism, and was like, we're going backward. We can't afford to go backward right now. We just have so much energy and work that we've gone to try to move things forward. So we just have to stay with our values and we have to stay with our message, and we'll just keep following what we've been doing and still try to follow that no matter, what happens. So I'm willing to be proud and accept that I'm a Black deaf woman, and I'm still going to be willing to do the fight and do whatever it takes.
This is Aracelia. I just want to add to what Sasha was saying earlier. I mentioned that 75% of our funding is federal, and now that is going to be gone. But at the same time, our philosophy and our beliefs in ending violence in the deaf communities, there's still a lot of systemic violence going on. And our belief is that doing that systemic abolition work means transitioning our services from relying on the system to being a community-based resource, from using resources within the community to end violence instead of relying on this system. The things that we see out there and how much trauma deaf individuals experience just from trying to interact with the system and being institutionalized. Um, uh, Maybe this federal funding is a blessing in disguise, or it's a positive shift for us, even though it wasn't necessarily what it was that we thought we wanted. Now we can shift to more private funding or to potentially local and communities that maybe have more money, but really find different avenues that allow us to continue in pursuit of our mission and values and disseminating that to our communities. So I think that building a stronger relationship with our foundations, we are incredibly grateful to have a strong relationship with a foundation who gets us and understands the work that we do and has been asking us, hey, how is the current administration in fact impacting your funding? And we've been able to be vulnerable and share our perspective with them, which they've been very receptive of. And I'm hopeful that others out there can also give more with this current climate. And also with this shift, we do have an unrestricted funds cushion that we can tap into. So it's a bit of strategizing, but we are continuing our work in a way that aligns very, very much with our values. Sasha here. I'm noticing some common trends. Lessening your dependency on federal funding, finding funders who align with your values and priorities, and not necessarily shifting what it is that you do, but rather holding the line as to what it is that you've been doing and know that there might be some pivoting that's required. Zach, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on this and add to this that we are, big funder base is not something that we have yet because we're so new. So in speaking about values and dealing, all of our beliefs and what we've learned so far is that we need to make sure that we continue in that. Our goal, food is an easy thing to understand. Without food on your plate, you'll get it. At the same time, we also have to have these relationships with other nonprofit organizations. And we've done that in our area to build strong relationships with the organizations here so that we can all work together and align in our common goals. And through that experience, we've noticed a huge benefit because there's some information that we just don't know. A lot of things that change so quickly, right? Things that haven't hit the news yet, things that folks might be aware of, but that information sharing is critical, and how leaders of the different local nonprofits will tell one another, hey, this funder, for instance, just forced us to make these changes because of the DEI. And we thought that funder was supportive, but in fact, they were not. So we are no longer pursuing that funding source. So things like that are really important. And additionally, we've noticed other local organizations in dealing with their clients and demographics the federal government, again, is now targeting those demographics. So a lot of collaborative effort, a lot of partnerships, and really building strong relationships with the foundations to share information and share resources. The more information you have, the better you can do your work and be part of a stronger, more resilient community.
This is Sasha. That actually makes me think of the next question, which is what guidance, if any, have you received from your funders? And funders could be donors, private grants, federal grants, sponsors, state, local grants. What have you heard from them if they've shared any guidance with you? Darian? Oh, Arcella? This is Arcella. We haven't necessarily gotten direct feedback as far as what to do, but the foundations are very aware of what's going on and that a lot of organizations are reaching out and depending on foundations more, and that they actually need to invest more money in these organizations. Most of the time, these foundations do invest, but they're recognizing that this is a time of need, and foundations seem to be stepping up. They are investing more from what it is that we've seen. We've also seen some foundations say that they are not accepting new grantees, but rather investing more in those that they already have relationships with. So we as an organization have to be mindful that if we're applying for funding, we might not align with their priorities. We need to figure out if they're taking on new grantees or new organizations that they're investing in and new relationships, or if we need to build stronger relationships with those who we already have relationships with. I feel like the more the foundations understand our work, the more we have a connection with them and the more that we align. I think that's key. If funders don't understand your work, that's where the struggle is as far as developing a relationship and maintaining a relationship. But I think that you get those relationships through transparent conversations with the foundations. Our private funder foundation has been very receptive. They've been asking us for feedback. They've been wanting to learn from us, which is an experience like no other. I've never experienced that with any other funder, but mostly because we've been getting federal funding. And again, finding somebody who aligns with our values and service and community love is important. This is Sasha. Darian, do you have any advice that you've been given from donors or funders?
Yes, this is Darian here. I was just sharing some of the common things that we've heard. They were saying don't change anything or some things keep the same. But at the same time, I want to be more involved with the staff and our lawyers and our state senators and our representatives. We wanted to have them involved. It's like we do that a little bit, but we really want, I'm not going around and surveying all, but we do realize now in the last 2 months that there's been a few events that at the state house that has a big impact there. You see the senator there, you see representatives there, and there's different agencies in their area. So it's like we don't want to overstep anymore. We want to see where we can find that support, and that is really important for an agency to thrive. So we got a good list from them, and then there was another involved in this with some different nonprofit organizations, and there's a lot of information there about some grants, and we see like what's happening, and we want to make sure that we communicate with the staff about what's going on. So that's pretty much, what we're adding to what Aracela already said, just trying to build those relationships and get in contact with other people to see what's happening and to really keep those networks open with other people so maybe they can support us in the next round.
Sasha, Here, anything else we want to add? No. We do have questions coming in too, so I do want to make sure that we have time to answer the audience questions. But next question. How are you, your staff, and the board navigating this crisis? What resources or strategies are you using, like, to navigate the process? This is Aracelia. As I mentioned earlier, our team and board is doing collaborative leadership. So we make decisions together. We make decisions about the budget together. We are very transparent about information sharing, and we make sure to continue those conversations regularly. So we're deciding what it is that we're doing with the remaining funding that we have. We are also know that we have less information currently, and that the less information that we have amongst each other is going to be take away our power. So there's power in having information. So with the current political climate, there's a lot of fear-based strategies going on currently, and it's easy to get sucked up in that. So we're being very intentional and very mindful about how to stay grounded in ourselves and in our work. And we're having conversations about self-care versus well-being and how they are connected, how we can take care of ourselves, yes, but how we can really make sure that we're having good well-being and how the two coincide. We check in with each other regularly. We ask, questions like, what are you most proud of last week? Or what's brought you joy in the last 2 weeks? Positive things are happening. So we want to focus on those. We also have intentionally designed our team retreats. Our retreats are working retreats, but we are very intentional about creating a space to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, and to connect with each other while also working. It feels like a healthy balance. All of these little changes we can do to connect with each other and connect with ourselves and align during this time is incredibly important. Burnout happens so easily in this kind of things, especially when we're doing work, all this work every day. So we need to do the little things to feed ourselves. This is Sasha. It's a long road ahead, and it's very important that we take care of our well-being. Zach?
Yeah, thank you. I love that comparison. The self-care versus well-being is fantastic. It's great. I this conversation has been ongoing and continues to be ongoing as to how to take care of ourselves and what we do. And we do recognize that, generally speaking, nonprofit work is hard. It's hard. It is draining. It can be draining mentally, physically, emotionally. It takes its toll. And as an organization and as an organizational leader, developing different strategies and skills. And, now it's hard, but the additional compounding factors now don't help. But the things that we've done will continue to help and not to give up. This is it. That grounding, those techniques that we do rely on, and we rely on each other, we rely on our team. I hope that, everyone feels the same about me. I'm there for you, you're there for me. Oftentimes it can be really heavy in regulations and rules and policy, and we get that. But there's also the experience in our work that we have to recognize to consider the need for, we are giving out free food, yes. And when a client comes into our place and they look like, it looks like a grocery store. We're lined up with food and food categories, and each of the categories has limits as to how much someone can take. For example, frozen chicken is 1 per person, just for example. And there are those kinds of limits around the storefront. And we're open twice a week, 2 days a week, meaning that they can come back quickly without any problem. But some clients, That's if they are close. But if they're far, it's hard to come twice a week. They might not be able to. And our policy might say you can only get one. But I, as a person, have compassion and have to recognize that sometimes the policy might not work. And you've got to step up and work and think through the compassion piece of it. If someone is farther, stretch that, help them out. They might need to take two. You've got to act out of compassion in addition to the policy. It, organizational level, it's a lot to juggle between compassion and policy, both of those things. It's a balancing act. And small little things to be supportive can happen with more compassion. So I think that is something really important to consider right now.
This is Sasha. So showing up for the community, showing up for the team, showing up for your organization and having compassion that the difficulty that many of us are facing.
Mm-hmm.
Darian?
Yes, this is Darian here. And one thing I can add to that answer is because having staff is very different. I mean, having a board, a committee. So we all have to agree that we must have some time to ourselves, and it's okay to take some time off. And that's something that we're all guilty of, trying to do work while we're off or trying to hurry to do work. But it's like, just take one day off, take 2 days off, whatever you need, a sick day or whatever. You don't need to work. Like, we understand that. And our work is hard. The work that we do, and Zach's exactly right. It's hard. We work with we have a lot of emotional investment in our work. I care about my staff as well, too, just as much as the people that we serve. So really, our agency, we have a grant program and we get some money, maybe to go bicycling, or maybe you can go do a different physical activity, or maybe we can do that. And that's something that our staff really appreciate. So we do use that type of grant. And we do have some other ideas there to kind of navigate, what would be appropriate or things that we can do for some self-care. But my office is very local organization. So there's many people all over the place. I have 28 different people there. So and they're spread all over the state. So sometimes we do something like once a year, we'll have a retreat or some kind of thing, but that's something, that we have to look for. Sometimes that's so far in advance. So, sometimes we have to put the work aside. You have to prioritize your family. You have to do fun things. So we try that out. And it's not all about work. It's just whatever comes to mind, but do something, fun for yourself. And that's where we are right now, trying to navigate that.
So before we start in on the Q&A audience questions, is there anything else that any of you want to chime in? I appreciate your involvement. So I've been asking all three of you questions, but now we have time for some audience questions. We mentioned, an interpreter clarifying here. I asked the three presenters if they were all right with having people reach out to them after this webinar, and they said absolutely yes, and then we'll be sharing their contact information. So the first question from registration was, how can organizations that aren't likely to be targeted by the executive orders support and protect organizations that will or have been? Any takers? Darian, go ahead.
This is Darian here. That is a great question. And that's where the collaboration really comes in. Maybe they can write a grant together, co-write them together, and maybe it can benefit both organizations. That's one way. Maybe, we can come to your events and we can go to yours. Maybe we can network online by sharing and posting different events. There's many different ways that we can, but really we can start sharing resources, and we focus a lot on the deaf resources, and then we can add more of that, the state resources, if you know other states and what they're doing. So really, it's mostly the collaboration effort. I think that's one that's really important, and it really works. I mean, there's a lot of involvement that we had, but we just need to survive in that way. So collaboration is important. Darian says, absolutely, you're absolutely right. We have to collaborate with both organizations and share those resources. And I'm sorry, I would also like to add there that there's another organization, and some of you, if they're knowledgeable with research or knowledgeable with whatever, you know, doctors or something, maybe you can collaborate with them. So you have to find the right way to propose that idea. So that you can be creative as possible when you're looking for those relationships within collaboration.
Yes, and this is Zach. I think that there's a famous story of making this easy. There's so many different sticks, right? If you've got a lot of sticks that break, it's a little bit harder. And these things that come up, we're seeing how that is so true. Is that a lot of organizations, like I'd mentioned before, networking, building relationships, if they need something that we have, and vice versa, volunteer network, what have you, that's something that's really critical, again, in building those relationships. No one can be an island. You can't be an island. We really, the only way to work together is to understand, when we go out and interact with those folks and building those relationships. So the opportunities in chaos, always there are opportunities in chaos. And I am of the mindset that we have to keep going. Again, community doesn't mean isolation. Community can also mean a larger community as well.
This is Aracelia. I mentioned earlier that now is the time that we really need to reach out to people and that we need to create space for dialogue, for conversation, for checking in with other organizations as well, seeing what areas they're struggling in, maybe creating a new referral process. Hey, we can take care of these referrals to us, you take care of these referrals. This is a time to be more creative and think outside of the box. We've been operating on status quo, doing our own thing, but now is time to pivot and connect and get more support and be more supportive. So, as Darian mentioned, going to an event, I've seen a new trend as to where some organizations will say, you know what, I can't attend your event, but in support of your event, I'm still going to buy a ticket. Or buy a ticket and donate it to a survivor or a member of the community so that they can attend the event. These are very creative ways that we can support other organizations. This is Sasha. I really like that. Okay, moving on to the next question. Reading through them here. Okay, this question. Do you feel that although you have current contracts with different agencies, perhaps state, local governments, do you feel like you might potentially lose these contracts due to the new executive orders against DEI?
This is Darian here. Yes. For example, our ASL program, we do a lot of contracts through the state and provide classes for ASL. And we're starting to hear more and more about state agencies, and they're starting to do that less. They're not really asking for the ASL training because it's part of their orders from the executive government. So we don't know, whether it's about mental health or children and families who are under our resident services. So we're starting to see a change with that. And we're trying to think like, how can we survive on if we're doing that? We want to stay active by hosting classes in the community, but that was part of the big money that was coming in too. So that is one area where we've noticed it so far within our ASL program. And even with different staff positions, Some of that funding, well, before we were able to set it up yearly and commit to that, but now we're starting to reduce that commitment and see how we can provide staff ongoing. And maybe we're looking to add money from different foundations. So there are some many changes that are happening, but we can't think just from 1 year in advance or 2 years in advance. We have to really keep it current.
Mrs. Sasha, so you're saying pivot to other revenue sources
Exactly.
rather than potentially the state and local contracts, maybe more community-based solutions
Yet it has to look
and
different.
managing your funding so that it lasts you for the long term instead of just the short term.
Exactly that.
Perfect. Aracelia? Yeah, this is Aracelia. We get private funding from a foundation who does a lot of domestic violence type of work. That is our primary focus. And they are interested in seeing new approaches and new trends within our field, which I think with their private foundation funding, they have more freedom to invest in what it is that they're interested in rather than being tied to potentially what the government says that they need to do. So I hope that that trend will continue and that they'll continue investing in us. Also, I feel like it's time to tap into other grants that might potentially benefit us. There are some California-based laws that we're thinking, okay, so if this law goes into effect, there is required funding for marginalized communities, which would be deaf plus adult services. There's a California law that is mandated that they need to be invested in. So this might be something that we might be able to take or leverage. Ending violence within that specific population. I know other states don't have that specific legislation in place, but that is definitely something, since we're California based, that we're exploring getting funding from. So it might be that we get less of the pot of money from federal, but we're coming up with other sources and navigating through it now. This is Sasha. So basically coming up with a plan B, huh? If the funding gets cut completely or just reduced, you've got to pivot. You got to be able to have a plan B, C, D, and all the way down the alphabet. I do have one question that I want to ask that came from our registration, and it has to do with this. It's about DEI, and it's the DEI includes intersectional identities and lived experiences from across various communities and groups. The federal government is attacking DEI, so what's your plan, if anything, with addressing deaf and disabled communities under the DEI lens? Are you holding steadfast? Are you pivoting some? Or what's your organization doing? This is Aracelia. We are holding fast with our belief and staying firm with our values. If the government decides to let go of DEI, that's just fine, because we would have to completely reinvent ourselves. We are DEI. That is absolutely aligned with us. So this is the work that we've been doing for 25 years. We've invested in these DEI types of services for the community. So this is one big reason why we've stayed strong in our resolve and our philosophy and values, because it absolutely aligns with that. So no change from us. We're not bending to the federal government's whim. Darian? Zach?
This is Zach. Yeah. DEI has brought, yes, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of growth in this. And it's not just about, we don't want to lose that. We do want to stay steadfast in that. So what we are doing is focusing again on our food. And that is how we use that to our advantage. Anyone, if they don't have food, is impacted. What we do in looking at and relabeling perhaps some of areas, perhaps rebranding, if you will, some lessons and values for the foundations and sponsors, because the goal of what we're doing, what we're building, is to continue to carry on and deliver for growth of our community. We know that it's a very sensitive and painful topic to see all of these things being targeted, but it's all of us, and we're still here and we're still there. It's not something that we can just sweep under the rug. It's like a plant every year, right? In the ground, it's still there. So it will grow again and will come bigger and better. And that is our current mission and our focus and our perspective on this.
Darian, you want to add?
Yes, this is Darian here. It's just we cannot just get away from DEI work. That's our work every day. But I think the issue really at the federal level is at getting the DEI itself. They just don't want to see that language there, DEI. Those are just like trigger words for them for whatever reason. So instead of that, we'll just say, we'll find a different way. Black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, whatever we need to do. It's still DEI, but we're not going to use the term DEI. But it's no different than what we're doing. It's so different with our work right now. So, you used to see like social justice, and that really scared people away when you saw that topic. So then we had another way. Then we say that we need to make our people feel more like they belong, more that they belong here. And, we just had to manipulate the language a little bit. But we have to keep the conversations going. We can't just stop and say it's the end of the discussion. We don't want that. We just have to continue on with what we're doing. And it's just challenging, but that's all we have to do is that we kind of have to play. I've learned from the nonprofit sector, it's like with nonprofits, like, we have to check the pause for that. Like, what do we have to do for that? So it's really nice. I've learned from other people. It's like, what can we do? How can we connect this? What other terms can we use? So we just have to rely on our resources here. We just can't stop the work, period. We can't stop the work.
This is Zach. I want to ask, do you mean the National Center on Nonprofits?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. Thank you for that.
Okay, because I've used their PDF on their website. Their page is pretty clear the impact of DEI policies in the executive orders. I wanted to clarify one example on a very grassroots level is we work with various organizations with the goal of building community and coming together and being inclusive and including conversations from various people, from various backgrounds, from various perspectives. And last year, we participated in the Pride Parade with the same, level of organization and sponsorship and support. But we've worked with, different churches on a weekly basis as well. And being able to communicate with them, we're going to participate and expecting a lot of resistance in that. Expect, to lose some, but we've actually still had the same support. We haven't had too much change. And that was last year, but this year might not be the same. And we will probably still, as of right now, we are still planning to participate, but still requires some keeping up with these relationships and building those over time. With the chaos that's going on, we are still staying strong, and a lot of people are scared. So we have to reassure one another that the community that we had yesterday is still here today as well.
This is Sasha. Yes. Oh, wow. So, oh my goodness, we are running out of time now. I'm like, oh, darn it. As I mentioned in the chat, we will post all of the three of these individuals' contact information. I want to say thank you to the three of you because I feel like there's not enough of this type of thing happening within our space. So thank you. I'm really glad that we got to have this time together to have people listen to your experience and know that they're not alone. Three things. You've attended this webinar, and many of you have attended the webinar last month and shared your resources and strategies with us. My team's compiled all of it into a collective resources and strategies document, and that's on our website. So please utilize the information from today's discussion and that document to help you navigate what lies ahead. We also have our deaf organizations and programs directory that you can find over 80 deaf organizations across the United States. It's a great way to collaborate and find grant opportunities and cross training. Also, we're launching an additional directory that just was launched, actually. It's called the Consultant Directory. It's new. This is where consultants who are members of deaf communities or are prepared to to provide communication access can support some of your organizational needs like accessibility, leadership, and coaching, and strategic planning. And then if you've had a wonderful experience with a consultant who supported your organization, ask them to join the directory so that others can use their services. We're still expanding the directory and we're wanting new people to be added. So these three resources can be found on DOF's website. I just want to conclude here and ask you all to fill out a brief survey about our organization's experiences with navigating the current nonprofit crisis. Hopefully you will be able to fill that out. It's going to be emailed to you within 24 hours. I very, very much appreciate all of the panelists today. Thank you so much. After this concludes, you'll get the survey. It'll have a few brief questions. It'll ask you really to share with us what the biggest impacts are on your nonprofit in the current climate. If you don't have time to fill it out, that's all right. Like I mentioned before, it'll be emailed to you within 24 hours. But we would love it if you'd take a moment to fill it out so that we can help so that you can help us understand what all you're facing, because without any data or any information, we don't truly know. And when you know better, you do better. Thank you all so much and take care.
Thank you.